B-boy. From the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East Coast to the West, B-boys worldwide. We supposed to be blessed, still a B-boy.
Tonight, I'm going to attempt to separate the art from the artist. So this week, we're heading to the Windy City, Chicago, to talk about one of the most controversial personalities to probably come out of the hip-hop culture. Whether you love or hate him, you probably have a strong opinion. After blowing up as a producer, he stepped in front of the mic and the roller coaster began. This week, yes, top 10 Kanye West songs. Joining me, as always, we got Raven Hunter. Brad Sadler's in the house. And Kane is here in spirit. I have his list. I'm going to read off his list, but he couldn't make it, so he's half here. And as always, I'll start it off. And this is the album we're going to talk about a lot tonight when I'm up. 2004 is The College Dropout. This is a really good album. I loved it when it dropped, and it's still good. And I'm going with the first actual song, We Don't Care. You know, after blowing up as a producer in 2004, he comes with his own album, and I think it starts perfect. I love the hook. You got the kids choir singing, great lyrics, kind of an on the real song. You got Mary Bennar replaying the violin, the hip-hop violinist. It's just like all the ingredients were perfect. And I can remember hearing this record for the first time, and he got me with this song right away. Great entrance to a great album. We Don't Care. My number 10. Here we go. Raven, what's your number 10?
All right. So I do want to preface my number 10 with, I do think if you separate the art from the artist, Kanye West is one of the most important rappers we've ever had come out. And I know that sounds silly, but every time he did something, he changed the game a little bit, all the way down to 808s and Heartbreaks, where he completely basically forefronted what's considered the most popular genre of rap, emo rap right now. But I started with The College Dropout with the new workout plan. And I fucking love that beat, man. It's so fun. Kanye's flow is so fun. It sounds like Kanye was having fun while working on it. Anything past My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Kanye doesn't sound like he's having fun anymore. He sounds dialed in and there. But back then, you could tell he was still hungry, and that song was really fun.
That's a perfect way to explain it. Fun. Even the, talking where he's, I took Kanye's workout plan and, all the funny stuff.
Never skip any of that. I don't listen to the workout plan skit before it because it's just unnecessary. Right. But none of his skits are ever really necessary, unfortunately. But yeah, I just love the new workout plan.
Yeah, we're starting off on a good note. All right, Brad, what's your number 10?
All right. Well, first of all, my current town is in new workout plan. Ellie Mae from Mobile, Alabama, does the Mobile.
Hell yeah.
So I didn't pick that one, but I'm glad somebody did. And I was like, man, should I pick it? Because it's, says Mobile. But I'm also, hey, let me preface this. Like, this may, for people who've actually watched the podcast, and when I show up, it's usually like serious hardcore gangster rappers and wicked shit rappers. And you might be surprised to know that Kanye West is one of my favorite rappers of all time. I'm just going to say that we're going to talk about Kanye up through Life of Pablo. For me, after that, I think I'm not diagnosing, even though I am a psychiatrist, there may be some mental illness. There was definitely some statements made that I don't want to associate myself with. So I'm talking about Kanye up through then, and I don't condone or anything that he said that would be, promoting racism or Nazism or whatever else was going on. But up till that point, man, I would fight people about how awesome and amazing Kanye was. But I was late to the game because I was only interested in gangster rap, hardcore rap. When I saw Kanye and the pink polos and talking about going to school, I was like, I can't stand conscious backpack rap. People kept trying to get me to listen to it. And I'll explain how I got into it a little later when I come up with other songs. But I once I got into Kanye, I worked my way back and found that every album was really good. I'm also starting with Chris's favorite, The College Dropout, and I'm going with his debut single, which is fucking cool as hell. Recorded it after He got into a car crash and his mouth was wired, and this shit still sounds awesome. Like, it's a really catchy song. It's also, I think, an embodiment of what early Kanye was, with that chipmunk soul samples that kind of made him very popular. And that's why I wanted to pick one of those songs. I could have picked a lot from College Dropout. I mean, there's actually very good songs. I think it's a bit uneven compared. I really feel like in the beginning, Kanye gets better and better with each album. There are definitely skippable songs for me on the College Dropout, but there's definitely highlights of genius throughout that whole album. And I don't think it's a bad album at all, Chris. I think it's really good. He's on his way.
Yeah, I mean,
That,
it's definitely like I'd say his third or fourth best album.
Absolutely.
well, Through the Wire was honorable mention because it is a cool
Yeah, same.
backstory to it. It is a really cool backstory to it. And that may have been the first time I heard him rap. I'm not sure 100%. I couldn't remember the first time
First
I
for
heard
me.
Kanye, but I
It's
believe
definitely the first for me.
I know I heard that before the album, and I don't know where else I would have heard him rap. If I did, I forgot it. All right, Kane. Kane's number 10 now. Whew. He's going to the Jesus is King album with
Ooh.
a song called Use This Gospel with Pusha T. I got no comment on that.
I love
Yeah.
Pusha.
love Pusha T.
I love both of the clips, and I wish Malice was still around, but I love Pusha T as well.
Yeah, well, Malice found God, and so he can't rap anymore, apparently. But yeah, Pusha T and Pusha T with Kanye was really fucking good, really good. I really got into Pusha T from hearing him on Kanye albums.
And you talked about, kind of touched on some as it's not really a rant, but I stopped liking his music before his racist rants and spiraling out of control. But the problem I have is with the Nazi and eating with Trump and white supremacists and Holocaust denying, all this. So many people just say, "Oh, that's just crazy, Kanye." It's just crazy, Kanye, and I think that's dangerous because you have millions of young people who look up to him, and they might be taking this in. So I think it's very. I hear so many people say, "Oh, he's just crazy." That doesn't matter what he does or says, but he's got a platform, and that platform can be very, very, very dangerous. That was my
I
little
agree.
rant.
I agree. I
Really,
agree with everything you just said.
yeah.
Absolutely, and I am no way saying
Condone that.
he
No
said
animals.
things
Yeah.
out of mental illness. I have no idea. I do think that nobody should play psychiatrist, even a psychiatrist who hasn't interviewed and done an evaluation on someone. So who knows why he said those things or how he said those things. And I read actually an article that people came out and said he'd been saying racist and pro-Nazi things for many, even back in the College Dropout years when he was talking to like people at Nike and he was first coming out with his shoes and stuff like that. I read this whole big article about it. So who knows? I definitely am not saying it's because I made my preface that he probably has some mental illness, as he called one of his albums, like I have bipolar disorder or something like that. I'm not down with any of that stuff, and I'm glad we're making a big point of that because I don't want to be associated with it.
Right. And that was probably one of the, besides I stopped liking his music, that was one of the things I considered where I kind of put Kanye off. Because not just you guys, but other people asked about it. And it's like, do I want to address it? But yeah, I think it's important to talk about it actually, because it's so dangerous to just say, oh, he's just crazy. So what he says is irrelevant. It's not going to affect anything. A lot of crazy people say things, and then you get shit like January 6th. So, but back to the music. My number 9, I'm going to an album you guys love, 2010's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And I'm going with the song Monster. Now, my favorite part of this song isn't even Kanye. Rick Ross and Jay-Z do great, but the highlight is Nicki Minaj's verse. She kills it. The like fighting with the two personalities. And if you ever see the video too, it's like two different, she's playing both characters, like fighting each other. The beat I like a lot too. And it's almost like, it reminded me of a rap version of Thriller. It's like horror themed, but for the general public. It's not obviously horrorcore, but it's kind of like Michael Jackson's Thriller for rap is. They're talking about scary stuff, but a kid could still listen to it, I think. it's just a unique song. Nicki Minaj kills it. I love Nicki Minaj, especially her early stuff. So I fit something off that album, Monster. Was my number 9. What's yours, Raven?
Man, speaking of that song, yes, Nicki, God, she, like my wife says, can you play that Nicki song that has Kanye in the minute?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're right though, that video was so good. And as my wife told me, apparently it was China Black that slaps Nicki Minaj in the face and that video off screen, and
Yeah.
it made her so mad that they've never gotten quite to along since. But apparently the director was just like, "That's fucking perfect. What are you talking about?" Like so. But anyway, that'll probably be talked about again. That song. I went to Graduation, which I really got into Kanye when Graduation dropped. Like, I liked his first album. I thought he tightened it up a little bit on the second album. And then on the third album, even though that's when he really started his bullshit, like with the Taylor Swift video thing, awards thing, and he went off on MTV because of this album, because he said he had recorded it to be played in front of thousands of people, not to be played in a CD. Like, that and his album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, are meant to be like events. But I went with Can't Tell Me Nothing off Graduation. I love that beat. And it's just Kanye on Kanye's bullshit, and then just going, but I know all this shit, but you can't tell me that shit. I already know that shit. You can't tell me nothing though.
And it's kind of a unique beat. That
Yeah,
slower
it's not
type.
really a Kanye sounding beat, but he rides it really well.
Well, and Brad, you touched on it too, that he really changed the game production wise when he came out. That taking a soul song, speeding it up. Once that blew up, like everyone was copycatting that
Facts.
sound
Still do it.
for
They still do it.
years and years. And
They're doing
he,
that shit in trap beats now.
right. So there's no doubt he affected the industry and hip hop as a whole. Number 9. Yeah.
I want to say one thing about I forgot that you're a Taylor Swift fan, aren't you, Raven? And
Yes.
I can't stand Taylor Swift.
Shake it off,
So,
shake it
like,
off. Sorry.
She's one of my top 3 artists. I love her.
Kanye's been dissing her all along. That shit that cracks me up. I love that. That made me love Kanye.
I almost hated him because of that shit. Because that was her first ever music video award, and you're just being an asshole. But I looked past it.
He was
Wow.
an asshole.
Once Stronger came out, I had to look past it.
Yes, oh, that's a great song. So my number 9 actually, again, I think he gets better with each album. I had a hard time picking. I wanted to get one off College Dropout and one off Late Registration. And I went with singles off both of them. So I went with Gold Digger. That was probably the biggest hit off Late Registration. Really, really good song. I was thinking of picking other stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I just really like Gold Digger. It just sounds really good, the whole beat and everything. So that's my number 9 from the early Kanye albums before I really got into him.
I mean, I didn't look at the numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was his top selling single. That was getting played everywhere, just played out. I mean, that got played out a lot. I bet
They
that's,
still play that song in
yeah.
lids on my fucking daily playlist when I'm at work.
Yeah, that one kind of got played out for me, and but got Jamie Foxx singing the hook and whatnot. But it is catchy. Number 9 for Kane from College Dropout, Get 'Em High. That is a good song that will get brought up again. But not yet. My number 8, I'm going back to College Dropout, and I'm going with the song All Falls Down. I love the beat and vibe. I love all the elements in the beat, especially the guitar. And it's got those great conscious lyrics, but doesn't necessarily sound conscious. And it's a really interesting video. It's shot in what gamers call first-person shooter. It's all like you're looking through Kanye's eyes, and there's this part where he goes into a bathroom and you see him in the mirror. And that's the only time you physically see him because you're looking through his eyes. It's a really unique and cool video. So I just wanted it was a cool idea. But I like the song too, All Falls Down, College Dropout. That's my number 8. What's yours, Raven?
So I went for the first time. I'm going to be going to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. This song borderlines annoying because a lot of the songs on that album have really drawn out and long intros and outros, like, because he did it in the cinematic and he had a bunch of videos for a bunch of those songs. But I went with Runaway with Pusha T. I love that fucking song, and the piano is awesome, but slightly off key, and it goes on for way too long at the end, especially. But I love Runaway. I think it's a great. I love the chorus. I love the cadence and the voice of the chorus. I love the way they rap in that track. Just Runaway's a dope ass song.
The more I listened to that album, the more it reminded me of like a musical soundtrack. Because, like you
I
said,
feel like, yeah,
there was long intro. I felt like I was at a musical almost. It wasn't just song, like you said. Each one was like 8 minutes with these. They maybe
right.
just sing the refrain for 2 minutes after the song or whatever.
And then
It
play the
reminded me-
piano for another 35, 45 seconds.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's like a progressive rap album. That's kind of how I look at it. It's super musically dense, and that song. So I saw Kanye on the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy tour, and I'm pretty sure that's when the ballet dancers came out for that song. Man, seeing that album live, like I'm getting shivers just thinking about it. Like that honestly was the best hip hop show I've ever been to. It was a work of art. Amazing. I saw him, I think on one of the last shows, maybe the last show. It was in New Jersey in Atlantic City at a hotel that's no longer around, but when it came out, it was associated with Beyonce and Jay-Z Revel. And he did one of the opening when they opened, he did one of the shows there. And it was one of the last things we did before we moved down to Alabama was go see Kanye. But anyways, I'll be getting way more into My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, but that'll be towards the end of because those songs are just all amazing to me. So I wanted to go with so what I think is cool, and I'm glad you brought up My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It's dense, it's musical, it's long, it's got a lot of stuff going on. It's lush. It's like a wall of sound. And then in 2012, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2013 maybe, he hits us with a whole different direction with Yeezus. I kind of look at Yeezus like I look at My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy like a progressive rock album, and Yeezus is like the exact opposite. It's like punk rock. It's loud, it's abrasive, it's in your face. The songs are short. I still loved it. I love Kanye's voice rapping, and even though a lot of the songs sound kind of noisy, they still, for whatever reason, they caught with me. And it was really hard for me to pick a song off this record because I like most of them. But when I was listening to it, I kind of I got with New Slaves is what hit me the most. So that's the song that I picked off Yeezus, which I think is an underrated Kanye album.
Me going through Yeezus, it was like a hard listen. It was just
Same.
too much going on. Just like I'm in the junkyard and just everything is getting hit, and it just was like sensory overload. That and the 808 album was like torture. It's like I wanted to just shut it off, but no, I'm gonna go through every song. It's like it's got to get better. It's got to get better. It's not getting better. What the fuck's going on?
It really is a wonderful album, despite what
It is. It's a great album.
All right, we are on 8 yet, and Kane had "We Don't Care" as his number 8 off of College Dropout, which brings us to 7. And for the first time, I'm going to 2007's Graduation, and I'm going with the song "Everything I Am," because mostly this beat is so amazing. There's this laid back piano. You got scratching of Chuck D from Bring the Noise, which is actually done by DJ Premier from Gangstar, and that La 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 sample. I mean, with no vocals. Next time any of you listening hear this song, picture it without him rapping. It's almost like it could be funeral music or something like that. It just almost brings a tear to your eye. The music and just the beat is done so perfectly. And if I was from the outside looking in and never heard Kanye, even though it's not my favorite album, Graduation to me was maybe the most polished. Like I felt like he was on his game the most on Graduation, even though it's not my favorite one. But I Everything I Am. So really slow type piano. That's my number 7. Raven, what do you have on your list at 7?
So number 7, I went to 808 and Heartbreaks. That album is an experience. It's an experiment in Kanye dealing with losing his fiance because it just didn't work out, on top of his mother passing, who he worshipped, on top of he came off 3 consecutive albums that he got more and more popular, and he's starting to slip mentally really hard at this point in his career, and he's dealing with the pressures of all of that, and he has to top that. And I don't know, Billboard put this on the top 250 most important albums of hip hop history. Whether you view it as a hip hop album or not, it's responsible for spawning the emo genre that emo rap and sad boy rap now, is a big thing, where he was the first one with the auto tune shit. Lil Wayne started using auto tune for better or for worse. He changed rap with this album. I went with the song Love Lockdown because I love the beat, I love the chorus, and I just love the whole story. I just love this album. You can hear what Kanye's feeling while he's making this album.
Well, another thing I noticed, and I'm obviously not an expert in mental health, but to me, when I listen to every album back to back in order, which I do for every roundtable, I almost felt like, I'm not even dissing his music by saying this, like he was taking this slow slip into madness almost, and things just got weirder and more experimental, and like, I don't know, it was like I was watching a movie and the characters just slowly slipping into madness. But 808 and Heartbreaks was rough for me. It didn't even sound like a rap album. If that wasn't Kanye West singing those words, I would think it was like, I wouldn't think it was a hip hop album. I just couldn't make it. I couldn't make my ears like it. It was brutal to me, but that's what's great about music, right? Everyone looks at it a little bit different.
I love that you picked Love Lockdown, because I mentioned that song last night and you didn't say anything. I was like, man, I wonder if the 3 songs I picked, if he's going to pick one of them.
I didn't want any slips of anybody expecting what I was going to be saying.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool. It's good. I'll thank you for the surprise. But I mean, I agree. 808 Heartbreak. It's one album I don't pull out as much, but I actually listened to it last night and I was like, damn, this is, and I listened to it, back in the day, not as much as the other ones, but it's a really good album. And lots of things Kanye has done has spawned. I mean, the guy's a genius, whether he was spiraling into madness or dancing between, genius and madness through most of his career and then tipped over the other side eventually. I don't know, but very important album. And here's the thing, like we kind of talked about this in the group chat, like as you get older, you're like, I hate that shit. And there was a lot of like, when auto tune was like being used, everyone was like, oh, that's bullshit. And, you should use your own voice or whatever, but rappers weren't really they were using it as an instrument. It started as something to correct pitch, but then they took it and they used it as an instrument and made it part of the music. And honestly, it never bothered me all that much. I liked all those auto-tune guys, especially Lil Wayne, as we've talked about. But anyways, I could go on and on. I want to say my number 7. We're number 7, right?
Yep.
I wanted to get one in from the last album that I really liked, which is Life of Pablo. Again, this was hard for me to pick a song because I think a lot of these albums are, like even Yeezus and Life of Pablo, they're great listens all the way through, and they might not have a whole lot of like standout tracks in them. And like when you listen to one track in the midst of all of them, you're like, oh, that's great. But then just picking it out of a pile, it's hard. But I'll really love Rihanna. I like Kanye and Rihanna, and I didn't pick Kanye and Rihanna from My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, All the Lights. So I figured, why don't I do Famous? Because, he's also dissing Taylor Swift. Sorry, Raven. So I thought that was, I was going to bring up all the whole Taylor Swift thing, but we've already kind of talked about it. So Taylor, Rihanna, and Kanye, making her famous.
I do love Rihanna. She works great with hip hop artists, the stuff she's done
Thanks.
with Eminem, and there's a list of people. She fits in really well. I have tons of respect, and I don't listen to a lot of R&B, but I do really like Rihanna. And number 7 for Kane from Graduation, The Good Life. That was a single off that, I believe. Number 6, no surprise, we're going back to College Dropout, and I'm going with Get 'Em High again. This beat, and then Kanye comes in and just destroys those first 2 bars. My flow is in the pocket like wallets. I got bounce like how the drugs can't call it. I got the swerve like alcoholics, and just kills it. Then he comes in on a second verse and he's talking to this girl and saying, I know Talib Kweli, and she doesn't believe him. So he calls Kweli up on the phone, and Kweli's first line is, I can't believe he's using my name for picking up dimes. I mean, genius. I just think that it was such a great idea, done so perfectly. And shit, third verse, you can get Common, but he was kind of even a side note. What Kanye did in the first verse, then that whole storyline, and how Kweli comes in. I just love that. I wanted this to be higher because that always gets me. Every time I hear it, I think that's so fucking clever. That's so clever. But it slid to number 6. Get 'Em High. What's number 6 for you, Raven?
I skipped back to my Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. This is my favorite Kanye album. I think I told you it's probably in the top 20 for me of hip hop albums ever recorded, because it's just an experience. I throw on that vinyl and you can smoke some weed and chill, or you can fucking clean your house. Depends on your mind state when that album's on. But I went with Hell of a Life because I just love Kanye on his bullshit songs, and that's the song where he's talking about marrying a porn star and all that shit. I just love the beat. I love the chorus. Again, I love that album.
Well, and you guys kept talking about how amazing it is. I literally, not no exaggeration, I listened to that album front to back without any skipping 8 total times. 8 total times.
I don't get it.
And I
But it's
just don't
different. Like
get
you
it.
said, music is different to everybody. But
Right.
like, I don't personally know that I know anybody that wouldn't say that album is a fucking experience. It's a great album.
It
I
was
know one
just
now, but
subpar. It was just,
I wish Kane
eh.
was on it. I bet you he would boo you with us. But okay.
It is, and you said your top 20. I think my top 3 or 4 hip hop albums, probably depending on my mood, may slide in or out, but it spends time at the number 1 spot for me of the greatest album of all time. Well, I'll save it for when I get there. Still haven't gotten there yet. Love this album. So, but we're going to go to Graduation, and Raven, you and I are Kanye fans, and I think we're gonna have a lot of the same songs. And Chris, you can't tell us nothing, nothing, because Kanye's the shit. No, but listen, for me, I take a different take on this song than Raven did. Actually, to me, this song is Kanye when he's, I don't know, poor, growing up in Chicago. And he's like, just wait till I get my money right. Then you can't tell me nothing. There was a while, like when I, after I got out of medical school and I first started being a doctor and making a little bit extra money, and I was kind of like really into like luxury. I used to wear Gucci and all this other nonsense, and it was kind of paralleled Kanye's, like luxury rap and all that stuff. And that song just was always like, kind of cool to me, because I was like, yeah, when I was in medical school, just wait until I made that doctor money. You can't tell me nothing. But yeah, that song is just so catchy, and it's got attitude and bravado, and I love that. I reconnected with that Kanye when I started it had been a while since I listened to all the Kanye albums because of all the nonsense, and I actually really rekindled my love of Kanye. So I'm really glad you did this, because I was like, oh yeah, I was really into this guy's music for many, many years. So yeah, can't tell us nothing, man.
Been
And that,
asking for this for a year or two, Chris.
I know. It's gonna be done tonight, so no more begging for Kanye. But that song always makes you think of the movie The Hangover, because they play that song in the Hangover movie. But we are at 6, and Kane had another one from Jesus is King, a song called God Is. I don't remember any songs off that album, but I did listen
Me
to it
either.
once and decided once was enough. I wasn't going to change my
I
mind on
gave
that.
I gave it twice, but nothing stood out for me.
No, so
I had a really hard time. I don't think I ever even what I think I own the album. If there's a physical thing of it, I own it. But I'm not listening to a Jesus is King album. That's antithetical to my life.
I get it.
well, I wanted to tell this story. I'll do it on the halfway mark, and it's a true story. It goes back all the way to the year 2007. So in 2007, I spent a year in Zambia, which is South Central Africa. It was 30 hours of in-flight time before you finally got to where we're going. So, we're beat. We get picked up by this guy who was going to be our guide for the month because we were out in the jungle. So we're in this Land Cruiser driving to where we're going to camp, and it was like a 2-hour drive. So the guy's just small talking with me, asking me what America's like and what I'm my family and shit, and he goes, "Oh, what kind of music do you listen to?" And I must have told him hip hop or whatever, and he said, "I like rap music, but I don't like Kanye. He's a real wanker." So anytime after that, like if my ex-wife and I talked about Kanye, he's such a wanker. So till this day, I say Kanye West is such a wanker. I think that was when he just did the George Bush hates black people thing, or it was something he did. Maybe it was something crazy he did. Yeah, he's a real wanker. But anyways, that's my Kanye West story. Number 5. I'm staying at college dropout. I'm pretty much all college dropout. And I got the song Two Words, another song with Marie Ben-Ari. And again, it's the beats that get me. This is just some bare bones hip hop. Most Def Freeway kill their verses. You got the Boys Choir of Harlem singing the hook. And we kind of talked about it before, but this is an example of that chipmunk sped up soul sample type sound that so many copied after him. I mean, there's no doubt people just totally copied that style after he started using it with, like on Jay-Z with Blueprint and that. So, Two Words. I like that song. What's number 5 for you, Raven?
I went back to graduation. I went to what I think was probably the biggest single. Was the biggest single, "Stronger." That was the song that he fought with MTV about because they put Britney Spears, "It's Britney Bitch" or whatever, opening the MTV Awards that weekend, and he's like, "I got this fucking single I wrote for the shit, and you're putting this white bitch on," like. Um, that was also when he said that they should rewrite the Bible and make him a wise man.
Maybe
So
that's
let's
why he was a wanker, because it was 2007 and this album is, I bet that's why he's a wanker. Anyways,
probably. But yeah, "Stronger" is such an epic fucking song. There was a mixtape that came out the year after I did a cover of that track. I've actually done 3 different Kanye cover or remixes of myself just because I do love his shit. But "Stronger" was just, it's fucking epic. The beats, the feel, just everything about it. It feels like a song made for a stadium.
definitely. You took the words out of my mouth. It's like stadium music. You could go to any, football or basketball game. That would fit in really, really good. That was on my honorable mentions. Brad, what's your number 5?
I'm glad you picked that one too, Raven. That didn't make my list, but it was hard not to make my list. So number 5, and I was really shocked and pleased and surprised that you chose "Hell of a Life," Raven, because I also chose "Hell of a Life."
Hell yeah.
It has a Black Sabbath sample as well. And so I was like, you know what, Kanye sample Black Sabbath, I'm gonna pick that song. I mean, again, when you're thinking about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, yes, there are some standout single tracks, but honestly, it's really an album you put on and you listen from start to finish, and every song, like, I mean, there's songs that I didn't pick, like the little comedy part where the local dude who's fucking Kanye's girlfriend, which is I can't remember which comedian is, but she's like, "Yeezy taught me," and that whole thing. He's like, I've never been to this part of Pussy Town before. I fucking crack up every time I hear that, but that didn't make my list. But it could have, because I'm like, man, it's hard. But anyways, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. This was the album that got me into Kanye. And it was like basically people were, when it first came out, Rolling Stone gave it 5 stars, and I even have a Facebook status like Kid Rock came out with an album, I think, at the same time, and Kanye got 5 stars and Kid Rock got 3 stars. And I was like, fucking Rolling Stone giving that bitch ass Kanye 5 stars. But then people kept talking about it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to listen to one song, and we'll get to that one song later. And I heard that one song, and my mind was blown. I was like, holy fuck, this is an amazing song. No way this guy has any other song that's this good. And then I went to the next song and the next song. And then I went to the next album, and I was like, I fucked up. I literally fucked up. I should have been listening to this guy. I should not have let my stupid, I don't like conscious rap or whatever it is get in the way of this amazing musician. So yeah, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is an epic. Like sometimes I feel like that album is so perfect, and like I don't even have like the capacity to understand it because I'm an imperfect human, and that album is perfect.
So it's kind of sounding like you worship Kanye West as like a deity.
For one album.
For one album.
It's I mean, he is a god. He tells you.
Many times he tells you that.
I wanted to feel the same. That's why I listened to it 8 times. And there's no doubt it's an experience, but it just was like, I don't get it. This is average at best. Number 5 for Kane. You brought it up before, the new workout plan from College Dropout.
Oh shit. That really surprised somebody else picked that.
It is a fun song, but it never got close to making my list, but it's a fun little song. Which brings us to 4. And for the first time, I'm going to 2005's Late Registration. And I'm going with the song Roses, because I'm a softie. I say it every episode. I love on the real songs with deep meaning. And no matter who you are, you know what it's like to go through the pain of losing someone. And he's talking about being in the hospital, his grandma's dying, and a nurse asks him for an autograph. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, it's just so real. And I'm sure shit like that happens to people famous like that. It's just one of those type of beats that's perfect for this type of song. Everyone can relate to it. I say this all the time. The worst part about getting older every year is you watch more people die. And so everyone can relate to this song, Roses. So that was my number 4. What about you, Raven?
That I really wanted that song to make my list. I just couldn't find a place for it. But that is a great song, and you pretty much hit every reason why. But I went back to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And for the same reason as the last pick, I went with Power, because it has that same epic amphitheater, just fucking sound and vibe. The chorus, the verses, the energy. Power is another song, a lot like Stronger. It had the same purpose, I guess.
Yeah, I have 2 honorable mentions from that album, but you guys haven't brought it up yet. So, Brad, what's your number 4?
All right, so I'm going back to Graduation. This is right up there with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy for me, and I could have picked a lot of songs, and I had a hard time. I was really wanting Homecoming to come on there because I wanted to be like, only Kanye could get me to listen to a Chris Martin of Coldplay song, but that didn't make it. Stronger didn't make it. I picked the first song off the album, Good Morning. The reason why I picked it is because I love the line where he says, I'm like a fly Malcolm X. I buy any jeans necessary. I told you I was really into fashion back then. I was always like we go to big cities. We go to like the Gucci store and the Louis store. And I was so into all that, partly because of the hip hop. And so that line stuck out, and I was like, I gotta put this song in the top 10 just for that line.
That was an honorable mention.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good way to start the album. I like that song too.
Definitely.
4 for Kane from Late Registration, Touch the Sky with Lupe Fiasco. That was an honorable mention, so we can cross that one off. Which brings us to the top 3. And I'm going back, I know, for the 5th time, to College Dropout. And I'm going with the song Jesus Walks. If this song wasn't about had Jesus reference in it, it probably would be number one. This is probably my favorite beat he's ever made. Hands down, I think, is his best beat. This beat sends shivers up my spine. It's almost so great. Just that boom, 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 boom. I mean, he's a genius at making, music, no doubt about it. There's also a remix on it. There was a bonus disc with this, and they had a remix with Common and Mace. The original's better, but this actually even won a Grammy. So if you're saying this song is bad, you're just wrong. Jesus Walks. Every time I'll rock out to that. So that was number three. What's number three for you, Raven?
I don't know that I've heard a remix to Jesus Walks. I
Yes, it
might
features
look into that.
Common and Mace, oddly
That's
enough.
that's an
Yeah,
odd combo. I'm gonna have to look that up after
very.
the show.
So there was
Um,
a limited edition that had a bonus disc, and it's got remixes and unreleased stuff, and it was on there. Yeah, it is a weird
oh yeah,
combination. Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up. But I went back to 808s and Heartbreak, and I'm surprised it's made my top three. But I went with Heartless. It was the big single, but I love that vibe. I still sing it front to back every time I hear it. That is another song that was on a mixtape around that time that I covered. And that was the first time I had ever used auto tune, and I never really did again. But yeah, I love Heartless. I don't know what it is about that dark, eerie vibe. Just I fuck with it.
This is the last time I'm gonna shit on that album. But in real time, College Dropout, I loved. I thought it was so amazing. And Late Registration was good, but I was a little less on that. Graduation, I liked a little bit more than Late Registration. So of course I bought 808 and Heartbreaks the day it came out and was like, what the
What?
fuck? This what the fuck is he doing? And he just lost me. And he never got me back after that. Brad, what is number three?
All right, number three. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to cheat. I feel like this is the companion to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And yes, I bought the expensive $130 gold-plated vinyl when it came out because I love Kanye that much. And it could have been $600 and I'd have bought that fucker. And I think Watch the Throne is sonically very, very similar to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And honestly, to me, it's a Kanye album. It has Jay-Z on it, and their band is called Watch the Throne, but it could have been called Kanye West and Jay-Z for all that matters. They never made another, and they're probably not going to now. Anyways, it's up there for me as a great album, but the song "No Church in the Wild," specifically Kanye's verse, is so fucking good to me. Like he just epitomizes what life is like as a rock star, and when I listen to that, I'm like, oh, I'm there. Like I'm a rock star. I'm like waking up at 5 a.m. drunk, hungover, kicking chicks out the bed, and I got my one girlfriend here and the chicks I hooked up with, and all the stuff he's going. I mean, that's just like my fantasy of being a rock star. And I wasn't sure I was going to include something on this album, but when I took my headphones and I went on a run and listened to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and then I listened to this, and I got stuck on this song. I kept repeating it, and I kept listening to it. I was like, oh, I want to hear that again. I want to hear it again. I want to hear it again. And I was like, fuck, I got to add it. And Jay-Z's verse, honestly, isn't all that great. It's really not memorable in that song. It's really Kanye's verse that he could be wiped away and that song would still be just as cool to me. This is a really, really good album. It has a lot of the singles are maybe a little easier to listen to than the singles off My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Otis and Ends in Paris are both really, really catchy songs. So a little bit of a cheat, but that's my number three, No Church in the Wild.
For this podcast, I listened to that album twice, I believe, and I liked it much better than Dark Twisted. I didn't even really make that connection, so it's interesting. You say it's kind of a companion piece. And I'm not even a huge Jay-Z fan, but for some reason, I didn't mind it. I just didn't pick anything from it. But I really like Otis. That song I liked even when it came out. So I'm glad that album got some love. Number three, what did Kane have? From Late Registration, All Falls Down. That's from College Dropout, isn't it? No, you got me questioning myself.
It's from
He's
College. Dropout. I'm pretty
Yeah, it's
sure.
from College Dropout. Yeah, it is.
I do believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's you. Didn't you have
He's,
it on your
I
list?
did, I did. That's why I'm like, wait a minute, didn't I just talk about? It's gonna
Well, it
be in
seems like
trouble for
Kane
that
is
one.
like you. He likes early
Yeah,
Kanye. Early
he,
Kanye and Jesus is
and
King.
Jesus is
Yeah.
king.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking at his last two picks, Dark Twisted is not on his list. So
Ooh,
Mm.
see,
wow.
I'm not the only. Oh, so I think we're at two. And I am going back to 07's Graduation. And I'm going with the song Homecoming. I love this love letter he has to his hometown of Chicago. By nature, I'm kind of a sentimental person. So I've been lucky enough, I've traveled a lot. I've been to 28 different countries and pretty much every state. But every time the plane lands in Milwaukee, every time I drive over the Wisconsin border, I just get this feeling in like my soul and heart, like I'm home. It just hits me no matter what cool, awesome, amazing place I was. That plane landing in Milwaukee hits my heart every time. So I totally relate to this. And it's an amazing beat. The piano is so perfect for this type of song. It just makes me feel good. And you know what? Ain't enough songs that do that. So Homecoming was my number two. What about you, Raven?
I'm glad somebody picked that song. It is a good song. And
It's a
I'm the
really good
same way
song.
with Maryland. And I've done a lot of traveling, been on the road
Yeah,
musically and shit. Every time I hit the Chesapeake Bay Bridge or land in BWI, I'm finally home. You
get
know what I
that
mean?
feeling. I know it's just that.
Yep. So I just, I was on the Access Family Tour for like 3 or 4 stops, and I couldn't wait to get back to Maryland, and that was wild to me at the time. But I always
Right.
end up back here. But yeah, I went with Monster with Jay-Z, Nicki Minaj, Rick Ross, and Bon Iver. What a great song from an album that I've already praised like 4 times. But yeah, that video was great. Rick Ross's part is short, but it's great. Jay-Z's verse is my favorite Jay-Z verse he's ever done, was in that song Monster. And Nicki, we've talked about, but Kanye's verse is fucking genius in that song. Like, just from talking about the head of the class and she wants her swallow ship and the sarcophagus and
Yeah.
all that. And then what my I'm living in the future, so my present is my past, my presence is a present. That shit is genius. I'm sorry. But yeah, I love that song. And Nicki she just closes the curtain on it perfectly. And I
Mhm.
love Nicki. I love her music, and I've always thought she was gorgeous. So, we ever do a Nicki one, I'll definitely be on that one too.
I love, especially early Nicki, that first album to me, it was
Oh yeah,
awesome. Amazing fucking album. No, but like we were talking, Brad, you kept going back to that one song. When I was listening to this 8 times, I would go back to Monster and then start from the beginning, listen to Monster, then go to the beginning because that is a great song. So what was number two for you, Brad?
Let me just before I get to that, I want to say, so you mentioned Bon Iver. He's on a couple of songs on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and I'm the kind of person who was like, okay, well, I love this album. This guy has contributed to it, and so let me go search out this guy. Garbage music to me, like horrible, but
you're
Kanye
not
made
wrong.
it sound fucking awesome on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Took the best elements of someone I consider to be unlistenable on his solo albums. He's like some like indie,
It's considered folk electronica.
yeah,
Um,
it's horrible. It's horrible.
Hmm.
It's garbage. And Kanye took the best parts of
folktronica.
and made it. And I hate Coldplay. I fucking hate Coldplay. And I wanted to hate that Homecoming song. It's so good. And it was on of my 11. It was on my, remember I said I had 11 songs. That
Mhm.
was hell of a life knocked it off, but it's a great song. So I just wanted to mention that Kanye did that. And I don't think we've actually talked about the fact that I'm wearing a Scarface shirt because Mike Dean hooked up with Kanye. Mike Dean from Rap A Lot met Kanye when Kanye and Mike Dean and Scarface were working on the Scarface The Fix album. So that's another reason I think, but I found that out after I really liked Kanye and I was like, holy shit, Mike Dean's the guy that like created the Rap A Lot sound. And then he's working with Kanye. And I believe also, though, that's why I love Kanye's music so much and I'm not saying that all of Kanye is Mike Dean. I just think that Kanye surrounds himself either with people who he could pull out the best of or with geniuses and uses them and to make the best music possible. So that being said, we've already talked about it. Runaway. It starts with that just piano, and then that's what's so cool. And to me, it's not too long at all. I disagree with that. Like, it starts with the piano, and then it builds on that piano beat, and then it comes in and it's Kanye and it's Pusha T, and I really got into Pusha T from Kanye. And then it reminds me of the live show with the ballet dancers, and just what a fucking incredible genius Kanye is. And my wife and I, we were listening to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy in the gym, and I was trying to, am I going to pick Monster? Am I going to pick one of the singles, All of the Lights? I asked her, I was like, what's your favorite song? And first she was like, All of the Lights. And then, Runaway came on, and we were both like, no, that's her favorite song. I haven't told you my favorite song yet, but it was up there for both of us. And I was like, no, I'm going to do Runaway. Cause I like how it builds, and I even like the ending where it's drawn out for a couple of minutes. So, incredible song. And actually one of his most streamed songs, on Spotify. I think it's in the top 5.
Well, going back to the Mike Dean connection, that makes sense, because the Fix Scarface was on Def Jam, and I think that's the era where Jay-Z was heading up Def Jam. That all makes sense. So it is.
Yeah, Kanye did a couple beats on the Fix album, actually.
Oh, he
so
did the one with Jay-Z and Beanie Siegel, right?
Yeah. And so he wasn't really rapping then, he was just doing beats. So he was kind of working with Mike Dean, and that's where they connected. And when I did this Scarface, the backstage thing, we're all hanging out with Scarface, like his manager was like, started to talk about that. I was like, oh, I know this. I was like, I know like how Mike Dean met Kanye. And then when Face came in, his manager goes, hey, Face, he goes, we got a real Scarface historian over here. I wowed him with my Mike Dean knowledge. So anyways, I didn't have a Kanye shirt, so I'm wearing Scarface shirt.
Number 2 for Kane this is off the late registration, Diamonds from Sierra Leone, which works perfect. My number 1 from late registration, Diamonds, but the remix version with Jay-Z. To me, this sample is genius. I think this is absolutely genius. And the subject matter, amazing, especially since, he's fighting with, he wants these shiny diamonds that he's supposed to, want. But then he's seeing these kids missing arms from mining them, and how he struggles with that. It's easy in first world countries to not think about how all of our shit gets here. We go to the store, get it. We don't think about, the people in the fields. And I just love that struggle. But I love the remix with Jay-Z, because the way Jay comes in, Kanye does his first verse, and he's starting the second. And he says, what's up with you and Jay? Are you okay? And Jay just says, yep, I got it from here, yay, damn. And then Jay just kills it. And it's like, oh, that gets me every time. Just, that's the shit. But that beat, that sample, perfection. Even the basic hook works perfectly. I fucking love that song. This shows his genius. So my number 1 was a remix, Diamonds. What a sample, shit. Makes me want to listen to the original one even. It's so good. What's your number 1, Raven?
So remember, I had 15 that we were stuck on until about an hour before we started. That was definitely one I didn't think anybody else would pick, would be the remix with Jay, but I love Jay on that track.
Oof,
Yeah, and much like what he was saying with their Watch the Throne project, I just think Kanye brings out good in Jay. And I think he kind of ups his game a little bit when they're together. But I went with Jesus Walks from College Dropout, because it is also my favorite beat that Kanye has ever made. Like you said, from the first like, it gets me hyped. That's another song that I've done my own version to with that beat, because fuck, I always loved that beat. And I had a friend named Blindside that I used to rap with, that when Through the Wire first came out, he was all fucking over Kanye from the first song. And I thought it was cool because it was a cool story, but Jesus Walks is really the first song that I heard where I was just like, oh, I love everything about this song. Even though he's talking about Jesus.
Right.
But
even the verse, the verse layouts with, brothers, it's just done so fucking well.
Love that song.
That's awesome. That got a high up. Brad, what's your number 1? Jesus Walks?
No, no. But I will say this: I think Kanye is the only rapper I can listen to talk about Jesus and be down with what, or before Jesus is king. But okay, so I'm going with the song that got me into Kanye West. So I don't know, I can't remember why I chose to listen to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I don't remember if someone just said you should check it out, probably. And when I heard the song Gorgeous, I was blown away. That bluesy guitar that came in, which is like a turtle sample done by some Enoch Light and the Glittering Guitars. There's a King Crimson sample in there. There's Kid Cudi. There's Raekwon. I mean, that song, every time, like to this day, like when I hear that song, when that song comes on, like my brain explodes. I love everything about that song. I love that. And I love the way that guitar sounds. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is like, well, really, it's like a rock song, really. And I was like, that's why I heard it. And I was like, there's no way Kanye has any other songs that are as good as this, which is true. Like, this is my number one. But then I started exploring more and getting in more into Kanye. So that song, the song that got me into Kanye West, Gorgeous, off My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And I'm actually surprised nobody brought it up. I guess maybe I'm the only one that really, really loves that song.
It was the other song on my top 15, so it made my honorables, but I just couldn't get it in there.
And to end it, Kane's number one from College Dropout, Through the Wire. So
Because it
honorable
was the song that
mentions.
started it.
I have two honorable mentions from, Dark Twisted, and neither of you brought it up, which is just, it's funny because you both brought up so many songs from the album. Neither of them were my honorable mentions. But if you're joining us for the first time, honorable mentions, if nobody brought up a song that I think needs some love, I just give it a quick mention. And one that I really wanted to make my list because it was unreleased, and I think that might be on this bonus disc too, but there's a song called Wow. And it's just kind of a funny song. From College Dropout, Family Business I liked. Breathe In, Breathe Out with Ludacris I like. From Late Registration, Hey Mama, Bring Me Down. From Graduation, Champion. I thought that might make someone's list. That's an earworm song for me. I'm singing it already. And Good Life. And my two from Twisted Fantasy is the first track, Dark Fantasy. That stuck in my head. I had that in my head all day. I went to a Snoop Dogg concert where I heard Lady of Rage, Dog Pound, and Snoop. On the drive home, I was still singing that fucking Kanye song in my head. Like it would not leave. It was bananas. And All the Lights. I really thought that would make someone's. I did like that. That probably would have been like a 12 or 13 if we're doing a bigger list. All the Lights was definitely a good song. That was like a stadium song. After that, I tried, guys. I could not find anything that I would not be lying if I said I even kind of liked it. Just I listened to everything. It was just some was better, some was worse. Like that Yeezus album, that was tough to listen to. But even all these other ones, I just did not like. I just was a hater. I don't know what else to say. But you guys give me the honorable mentions that I missed all those albums.
All right, off Yeezus, Blood on the Leaves is a fucking incredible song about a breakup and using, I think it's Nina Simone's Strange Fruit about like lynching. So it's like a really interesting sample and a cool song. Hold My Liquor is really good. I think that young kid from Chicago is on there that I can't remember his name now. I Am a God, I think is really good off that album. I think we talked about all the other ones. Father Outstretched Arms from Life of Pablo is really good. When that came out, I was like, oh, I could go to church. I could go to Kanye's Sunday service before it got crazy, So those would be ones that of the later albums that you didn't mention. I think I mentioned all my other honorable mentions as we were talking about it.
The only song that didn't get brought up for me was So Appalled from my Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It had a bunch of people. RZA was in it.
Yes, that's right.
And I like that. I always like that beat. It was another beat that didn't really feel Kanye-ish, but that it worked.
Any song from My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. To be honest with you, I could have picked the whole album, and that's what said, she's like, "Are you just gonna pick every song off My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy?" And I was like, "No, I couldn't do that." And then here's Chris pulling every song off College Dropout.
Right.
So
This
every song off My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is, and literally all of them, even the last one with you know, it's cool, we didn't even talk about this, the last one, the one where it's like free doom, that guy who does the spoken word is considered by some people to be the first guy to do rap, you know, like everyone says
Cool Herc.
Yeah, well, but that's not Cool Herc, it's
No, that's who they credit with starting hip hop. Are you talking about the guy from the Lost Poets?
yes, yes, and he was like around in the 60s and the 70s. He had, I forget his name now, but it's really cool that Kanye sampled him. And I ended up, that's how I found out about it. As I was listening to it, I was like, who did this free doom? Like, what the hell is this thing? And I looked up and this guy kind of, I mean, he wasn't really rapping to a beat, but his whole thing was like spoken word poetry. So it had like the nucleus of hip hop in it. And then it expanded to Cool Herc being the first. Sugar Hill Gang is who I was thinking of as like the first group.
The first one to national release album, the Sugar Hill Gang. Summer '79, Rapper's Delight. Kanye West is finished. Psh, don't need to ever talk about the man again. But no, in all honesty, I always enjoy this. Even if I don't enjoy all the music, I love going through someone's whole catalog because it's interesting to me to just watch you know, the ebb and flow of a career over a vast amount of time. And it reminded me how much I love College Dropout. When that dropped, I listened to that a lot because I like the conscious backpack rap. He had a lot of witty punchlines, and it's still a great album to me. And it'll Beautiful Dark Twisted Mind will just remain a mystery that I'll probably never solve. Have a good night, guys. See ya.
Appreciate it, guys.
Still a B-boy, from the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East Coast to the West, B-boys worldwide, we supposed to be blessed. Still a B-boy,